If hypocrisy were a renewable energy source, James Comer alone could power the entire United States. All he'd have to do is flip the switch. In the January 21st committee hearing, Robert Garcia cornered Comer exactly where it hurts the most, his own record. The same James Comer who is now desperately trying to drag the Clintons through contempt of Congress charges is himself standing in the line of fire today. Garcia just exposed the ultimate double standard, showing exactly how Comer bowed down when Trump-era officials flipped him the bird, yet today he's acting like the ultimate guardian of the law. This isn't just cognitive dissonance, it's a total joke. The truth behind today's hearing will make your head spin. Watch exactly how Robert Garcia finished Comer's game.
Thank you, Representative Brown. I just want to Chairman, I want to just respond to something that you said. I think it's important. First, I just want to read the folks of who the subpoenas you have chosen not to enforce. Alberto Gonzalez, who we subpoenaed on that same day, I believe, you did not enforce. Eric Holder, of course, former AG, did not enforce. Loretta Lynch, you chose not to enforce. Jeff Sessions, you chose not to enforce. Merrick Garland, who I think it'd be important to have answer questions, you chose not to enforce. Robert James Comey, you chose not to enforce. In fact, I have Attorney General Gonzalez's letter. It says, "Dear Chairman Comer, this letter is to confirm that consistent with my conversations with the committee general counsel, I have no present memory or decisions or conversations related to the investigation and prosecution of Epstein matter during my tenure as U.S. Attorney General." He, of course, was the Attorney General when the whole Alex Acosta U.S. Attorney matter was in front of a critical time in this investigation. Now, you chose not to enforce that because you mentioned that this letter is under penalty of perjury. The declaration that Clintons also made and sent to you to answer some of those questions were also under penalty of perjury. I just want to clarify that. And then with the remainder of my time, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important to note that you've talked a lot about the importance of our subpoenas and that we should all support this committee's subpoenas. And I agree with you, sir, and I want to hear from the Clintons. It's also important to note that we have members of this committee, Congressman Jim Jordan, Congressman Andy Biggs, Congressman Scott Perry, who are obviously very outspoken, which we like to engage with. Now, they're not here, and that's okay. Now, you also know, sir, that all three of them defied legally binding subpoenas issued by the January 6th committee relating to their efforts to overturn the 2020 election. So we should be clear that the majority chooses to be very selective on which subpoenas they want to enforce or talk about. We have members of the majority that themselves have defied subpoenas. So once again, I ask you, Mr. Chairman, let's ask President Clinton the questions that we have. Let's have him come in and testify in a way that we can negotiate, and let's get all the release of the files done immediately. Thank you.
Would you yield? Could I respond to that?
Sure. I have no more time, but I'm happy to respond.
So you say we didn't enforce the subpoenas. We did enforce. They complied and testified under the penalty of perjury that they had no knowledge. Now, the Clinton declarations were short bullet points, almost like talking points. And the evidence is clear that the Clintons did have relationship with them. Now, again, I've said publicly millions of times, there's no one's accusing the Clintons of wrongdoing, but the fact that they were that close, and the fact that I've never seen a sit-down interview with Bill Clinton where he's answered questions about his relationship with Epstein and Maxwell like the current president has. So we have complied and enforced all of our subpoenas, 100% of our subpoenas. So I just want to make that very clear.
Can I respond to you, sir? Sure. Just to be clear, you're talking about two declarations. The declaration that you chose to use as something that you moved on to not bring him in was 1/6 the size of the Clinton declaration. I'm looking at the Alberto Gonzalez response to you, sir, that you chose to dismiss, and it is one sentence long. You just pointed out the Clinton declaration, which is 6 times as long. And so I just think you are using interesting points to make comparisons. Let's just be clear and get back to the facts. Let's bring President Clinton in to have a conversation with this committee. You are instead choosing to try to prosecute President Clinton and send him to jail, which is part of criminal prosecution, before having him answer questions to this committee. Him and his team have been trying to negotiate. We want to hear from President Clinton. I'm not sure that you do, sir.
You don't think I want to hear from President
Chairman
Clinton?
Comer, can I, Chairman?
But before I recognize Ms. Luna, who'll be next, I believe, are you willing to accept those bullet points as testimony, or do you want to hear from Clinton?
I want to hear from President Clinton.
Then I don't know what the point is of talking about their bullet points. I mean, we all know they had a relationship. So.
Well, sir, I'm just responding to the fact that you mentioned that you're dismissing other legal subpoenas with one-sentence answers. And you're the one that pointed out the Clinton's declaration, which is also under penalty of perjury.
Do you think that Eric Holder or Lynch or Jeff Sessions or Merrick Garland had more? I mean, do you want to bring them all in?
I would love to have former Attorney General Merrick Garland in front of this committee to answer questions as to why more of the files weren't released. I've actually said that publicly. And so, sir, I think what it comes down to is we all want to get to the truth. We all want justice for the survivors. And I think more information is better. And so I think our position is that it is clear to me that President Clinton is negotiating to come in front of this committee. And it may not be exactly what you and the lawyer and your team want to see as far as that negotiation, or you're not satisfied with the progress, but they continue to negotiate. They have not rolled out a transcript. Let's get them in front of this committee. Thank you, sir.
What you just witnessed from Robert Garcia wasn't just a politician's speech. It was a clinical post-mortem of James Comer's credibility. Garcia asked the exact questions that every sane American is asking today. But my conclusion is far more bitter. We are living in an era where justice has lost its meaning. If you are a friend of James Comer, you can toss subpoenas into the trash can. But if you are his political enemy, that same law becomes a noose around your neck. The contempt James Comer is preaching about isn't actually for the Clintons, it's for the Constitution of this country. He thinks the American people watching this hearing are fools. But Garcia proved today that the receipts never lie. When you give a free pass to people like Pam Bondi on one hand, and then scream at people who have already offered sworn declarations on the other, you aren't protecting the law. You're running a political circus. My opinion is crystal clear. James Comer needs to relearn the meaning of oversight. Oversight is about the search for truth, not about using taxpayer dollars to sling mud at your political rivals to score points on cable news. Today's hearing proved how much the intoxication of power blinds people in Washington. The mirror Robert Garcia held up today didn't reflect a chairman. It reflected a political hitman. The cognitive dissonance we are seeing is dangerous. It is hollowing out the very foundation of our system. If we don't raise our voices against this double standard today, then tomorrow the law will only exist for those who don't have power. I said it before and I'll say it again. James Comer alone could power the entire Eastern Seaboard with his hypocrisy. That's not just a joke. It is the greatest tragedy of modern-day Washington. Garcia did his job. He spoke the truth, but the real verdict belongs to you. Will you accept this two-faced brand of politics? We have seen how these committees have been turned into satellite offices for election campaigns over the last few years. This January 21st hearing will be remembered as the day a chairman tried to lie about his own record, only to be dragged back to reality by a young congressman. In my view, as long as people like James Comer hold these gavels, fair investigation is nothing but a pipe dream. This country needs oversight, not overreach. We need leaders who apply the law equally to everyone, not those who redefine the law based on their own convenience. Today, Robert Garcia showed that speaking the truth requires more than just evidence. It requires backbone. And James Comer showed that when you run out of logic, you resort to shouting about contempt and authority. This entire saga is a lesson for all of us. The story behind the headlines is always different. I've shown you the receipts. I've shown you the truth from C-SPAN, and you heard the thunder in Robert Garcia's voice. Now it's up to you to decide who you believe, the chairman suffering from selective memory or the congressman fighting for equal justice. Washington is changing, but is it changing for the better? That answer doesn't lie with James Comer. It lies with you. If you believe today's analysis was necessary and that this Washington double standard must be exposed, like this video right now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we bring you the truth that mainstream media tries to bury. Tell us in the comments, do you think James Comer's double standards have finally been exposed to the world? Share this video so every American knows how their tax dollars are being wasted on political theater. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay informed, stay bold.